Morehouse football team member Elijah Campbell.
How's everybody doing? Welcome to the house. My name is Elijah Campbell. I am a senior business administration major, concentration management from Gaston, Alabama, with the GPA of a 3.8 because we are scholar athletes. This moment means a lot to me. I transferred in from Georgia Southern University, and I've seen this place where it's been it's been times where it's been low, but we're at a high. We're at a high right now. And I just want to say thank you to everybody and every supporter that has made this moment possible for me and my teammates back there. I know all my teammates are very appreciative of this moment, and all the track athletes as well. I want to take this moment to talk about a guy who's been in the game for 20 years. 20 years of experience and 20 years of devoting his time to student athletes and devoting his time to putting his foot forward for the student athletes and being a voice and a light for us. And at this moment, I just want to acknowledge, and I want y'all to give a round of applause to A.D. Campbell.
I wanted to thank him for that warm introduction. Welcome. This is a very exciting day for us, a day that we've been waiting on for a long time. To talk about all that happened to get this football field, first and foremost, I want to thank President Thomas for his support in this project, because of course it wouldn't have happened without his support, and the alums who also helped us get here. And as I talked with Coach Hill and Coach Freeman, this is a day they've been looking forward to for quite some time now. And I'm very, very appreciative of everyone that contributed and made this day possible. The football field, this facility is a source of pride for Morehouse College. We would like to thank our benefactors and partners again for investing in this project, and alumnus Edwin C. Moses allowing us to highlight his legacy of excellence as a world champion. The renovation represents a $1 million investment in our athletic facilities. It has provided the evergreen facelift for B.T. Harvey Stadium. The artificial turf has eliminated the wear and tear that existed with our grass field. The new field is equipped with a built-in cooling system that will benefit football players practicing, competing in the heat, improving the safety of our athletes who will compete on this turf for years to come. Morehouse College played its first football game at B.T. Harvey Stadium in 1983. Over the years, the program has won 7 championships and produced a host of scholar athletes who graduated and became leaders in their chosen professions. 8 alumni also became NFL players. The track. Today, Morehouse is also dedicating the newly renovated Edwin C. Moses track, which is named after our illustrious alumnus, world sports legend, and Olympic gold medalist, Edwin C. Moses, a 1978 graduate of Morehouse College. The Edwin C. Moses track has been upgraded with a top-of-the-line Bynum B1000 surface to provide a state-of-the-art experience for our students. The running lanes and jump runways have been expanded from 42 inches to 48 inches. Our field events will now be hosted in our end zones and up on the hill, and have also been outfitted with artificial turf. This renovation will allow Morehouse to host conference championships, regional championships, and hopefully one day the NCAA Division II National Championship. In a successful athletic history that dates back to the 1930s, the Morehouse track and field and cross-country program have been the most dominant program in the SIAC. Since 1991, the Maroon Tigers cross-country team has won an astounding 23 conference championships, and the track team have won 18 conference championships. At this time, I would like to bring up, like I said in the beginning, the person that's primarily responsible for making this happen and supporting this project from day one, the 12th president of Morehouse College, President David Thomas, who will tell you more about the important investments in our athletic program.
Thank you, Curtis. And thank you to all of the current members of the football team and the track and field team who are here this morning. Also want to express my gratitude for the alumni who've shown up today, in particular, those of you who played for Morehouse. So today is a moment that I have looked forward to for 4 years. And that is the reopening, the renovation, and the revitalization of the Morehouse Edwin Moses track and field at B.T. Harvey Stadium. And the origins of my wanting to see this project come to fruition started one morning. I used to come to, I don't sleep well, so I get up early, so I come to football practice sometime. I sneak in. And I was at football practice one morning, and there was one of our scholar athletes on crutches. And, you know, I was thinking he got hurt in a game or something. And he described to me that he had hurt himself on our field because we literally had places on our field where our young men could get their ankles twisted. And I thought, you know, I don't mind losing a player in a game to another team, but when I'm taking down my own players, we got to do something. And that coincided very shortly with a meeting with some alumni, and in that meeting was Edwin Moses. And they gave me the history of the effort that had been talked about for almost 2 decades to revitalize this track and field. So 4 years ago, I set out to bring us to this moment. So I can't overstate, actually it's kind of emotional, what this moment means to me. And the other thing I want to make clear is that, you know, this is a beautiful track and field now. We also have plans to improve and renovate our stadiums, so this will be beautiful. But what I want to make clear is that this effort has never been about giving Morehouse College simply beautiful facilities. This effort has always been about giving our scholar athletes what they deserve, facilities that are commensurate with the kind of excellence that A.D. Campbell was just describing. You know, I'll introduce Edwin Moses in a moment, but just to show you the excellence of Morehouse, this is a guy who trained and won the Olympics, and Morehouse didn't have a track. That's who our scholar athletes are. And when he tells you his story, he'll tell you that he was able to do it because he was a physics major, and he figured out exactly how many steps he had to take to break the record. That is a Morehouse scholar athlete. That is what I hope all of our athletes hold as their model for what we do here on this field. Now, I want to say to the athletes, the bar has been raised on you. With less than adequate facilities, you've heard the winning records of our track and field team, the accomplishments of our football team over the years. So don't you guys get fat and happy now that you have a nice field to play on, okay, and to run on. So, again, this is really about giving our scholar athletes what they deserve and what they require to be as excellent as they can be. Also, this track and field renovation, revitalization is part of a broader strategic plan and capital campaign to build the campus of the future for our students of the 21st century. That campaign is fueled by, or that strategic goal is fueled by our capital campaign, which we've now launched. Our goal is the largest of any HBCU in history, and that is to raise $500 million. I'm happy to report that we are over $200 million toward that goal. But the reality is also that presidents cannot wave magic wands to make projects like this happen. Great and needed projects such as this are only made possible because of the generosity of great philanthropists. Philanthropists who understand and value what we do here at Morehouse, who are willing not simply to give, but to give to their full capacity to give. And so I want to recognize a person without whom this would not be possible, at least not by this date. And that is the great philanthropist in our community, Willie Suber Aaron. Who is also trustee emerita of the Morehouse College Board, where she served for almost, if not more, than 2 decades. And, you know, when you're at a Division II school, right, so you're not bringing in Division I TV deals and those sorts of things, and more of your students are going off to law school and medical school than are going to the pros. People don't always understand the importance of athletics to being a great educational institution. And so what I found when I was trying to raise the money to launch this project, it was not easy to make the sale to many people. And I turned to Willie Suber Aaron and asked her to give a 7-figure gift. That's a lot of zeros. So that I could go ahead and launch the project and with prayer figure out how to close the gap. Because what I also knew was that if I could commit that we were launching this project, others would step up. And that turned out to be true. So I want to just offer the microphone for a moment to my great friend, one of my best supporters since I've been here, and a woman who I admire deeply, who, by the way, has, through her philanthropy, supported every school that makes up the Atlanta University Center Consortium. In addition to having her name on a building right across the street at the medical school, and in addition to what she's done for us here with the track and field, she And the scholarship program that she and her late husband, Hank Aaron, developed has supported hundreds of students at all of our AUC schools and schools beyond. So her generosity is just that. It's a generosity of spirit, and someone to whom the world has given much, and she has given much to the world. Mike is yours.
I honestly don't know what to say, except that I am honored, I am blessed to be able to contribute to HBCUs across the country. And I'm honored in particular to be able to contribute to Morehouse College. I came to Atlanta in 1958 to attend Atlanta University. And I have, over the years, grown to love this center and all of the schools that exist in it. I was a Benny girl. That tells you how old I am. But I don't mind you knowing that I've been around, I've been blessed to be here a long time. I was a dear friend of the Benjamin E. Mazes, Sadie G. Mays and Benjamin E. Mays. So I often stopped up on the campus on Fair Street there, the back of the house. Now I believe you have a building there. But I often attended meetings at the Mazes home that were not always Morehouse related. But Mrs. Mays was very, very active in this community and had begun a home called, at that time, Happy Haven. It is now called the Sadie G. Mays home. I loved those two people, and I still love them for all that they brought into my life. And they did so really through a professor that was on the staff here at that time. Some of you older guys may remember Samuel W. Williams, who taught philosophy and religion here. All of the things that happened in my life seemed to tie into Morehouse in one way or another. I am delighted to see this beautiful track field. I'm delighted to see again Edwin. We were on a cruise together. Where are you, Edwin? Oh, here, in front of, right in front. We were on a cruise together. Not that we went together on the cruise. Let's get that straight. But we were on the same cruise. So we had sometimes conversations during lunch or whatever time of day it was. And I've always admired him, but I had never had the opportunity to speak with him at length until we were on the Crystal Serenity. And it was a delightful cruise, to say nothing else about it. But Edwin did talk about this track. And after I came back, and after the Thomases came, the track came up again, and it's come up over and over again. And now here we are, and it's a beautiful, beautiful track. And I simply want to say thank you to each of you for your support, to say thank you to Dr. Thomas and to Ms. Willetta Thomas. And I told them a few hours ago, and I've told them before, I have plans for you. and I'll let you know what those are a little later. Thank you. Thank you to all of you, football players, track and field people, staff, and all of Morehouse College. I love you dearly. Thank you.
And we love you, Billy Super Aaron. Now, I would like to introduce the individual whose name is on this track. Edwin C. Moses, class of 1978, Morehouse, a physics major. Edwin is considered by many to be a national treasure and an inspiration to all scholar athletes, but especially those at Morehouse. Not only is he one of the most iconic athletes of our time, but as I mentioned earlier, he's a physicist. He's also a businessman. He's also a social activist. He's also a diplomat, and he is a benefactor of Morehouse College. Coming here, where we had no track, Edwin, through sheer grit and genius, figured out how to break an Olympic record, win Olympic Games. He went on to be just an amazing world-class athlete. I forget how many races he said he was in before somebody beat him. It's just mind-blowing what he was able to do. And at the same time, what I really respect about Edwin is that he's gone on to use his legacy to really make a difference in the world. He's led international committees. Today, he's one of the outspoken individuals around the controversial issue of doping in sports. And what does it mean to truly race and compete with integrity and with a level playing field? Not always a comfortable space to be in, but he's gone to those places where his voice can make a difference. Edwin, would you come and share some words with us?
Thanks a lot. Thank you. All right. I'd like to say, first of all, thank you to Mrs. Aaron. We were in Rio, and the cruise ship started, I think, maybe through the Panama Canal. They went all the way down the west coast of South America, around Patagonia, came up, and were in Brazil. And I boarded the boat in Brazil. So I go drop my things off, go get something to eat, and I walk into the cafeteria. It was a beautiful boat, and all of a sudden I look again. I said, wait a minute, I know those people. And I recognized Hank first, and then I recognized Mrs. Aaron, and we ended up having lunch. And that was the first significant time that I had spoken to her. There's been many more cases. One of my first great experiences when I came to Atlanta was that I was at the game when Hank hit the home run, sitting not too far behind, between third base and the catcher's, wherever the catcher was, home plate. And so I've had the opportunity to meet her on many, many occasions since then. I think after Brazil, then we saw each other at the Candle in the Dark Awards. And then last year we were at the baseball game together. And so it's so fortuitous to have her here today, knowing that she made it possible for this track to be renamed, rededicated, and fixed up in my name. So Dr. Thomas was talking about what it meant for the track to be here, and it's really all about the students. On the other side of the building, if you draw really a straight line, just on the other side of this building, there's a grave laying there, and it's the grave of Dr. Hugh Gloucester. So when I was at Morehouse, there used to be, I think the Sizzler Steakhouse was probably about right where the goalpost was. There was a steakhouse here, and there was housing all the way back up in this area. So it was like a little neighborhood. And in the spring of 1976, I ran 3 events at the Florida Relays, the 110 hurdles, the 400 hurdles, and the 400 flat. And on that day, I qualified for all 3 events for the Olympic Games. So that was March 27. If you fast forward, school got out in probably about the middle of May, I think it was around that time of the year. And by then, everyone went home. I'm here in Atlanta, had to find an apartment, move off campus, and find some place to live. And because the Olympic trials were in June, the budget for the athletic department had run out by then. So I had to go to talk to Dr. Gloucester, myself and Coach Jackson, and we went and talked to Dr. Gloucester. And really a wonderful thing happened. It was really the bet that, the reason we're here today is because of the bet that he made on me. Because what he told me, what I told him, Dr. Gloucester was an English professor. He didn't know that much about sports, and no one really knew about the machinations of making an Olympic team, which is you make a qualifying time, and then you get invited to the meet, and then when you go out there, first 3 to cross the tape win. So I explained the whole procedure to him. And the reason I was there was because we needed money, my coach and I, to go to California, be able to train for another 6 weeks, have hotel rooms, rental cars, entry fees for the meets, food, and so forth. And so Dr. Gloucester asked me, and I explained to him, like you said, Dr. Thomas, I'm a scientist, and I started, and there's a couple of my buddies here too, I explained it to them. In fact, Dr. Penix, one of my classmates in physics, I used to tell them about exactly what was going to happen and how I was going to run and how I was going to progress. And when it came to the Olympic Games, I was going to beat John Akibor, who was the world record holder, and break the world record. And there were a lot of guys on campus. Actually, some of them believed me, and some of them said, "Wait a minute now, what are you talking about?" A lot of people didn't believe, but my close friends that saw everything transpire between March and July 25th, 1976, when I did accomplish that, they knew it was true. But Dr. Gloucester asked me, "Do you really think you can do that? Do you really think you can go to the Olympic trials and make the team, and then go to the Olympic trials, the Olympic Games, and then win?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Dr. Gloucester, if I go to the Olympic trials, I'm going to break the American record at the Olympic trials," which I did. And then when I go to the Olympic Games, I'm going to beat John Akibor, and I'm going to break the American record. And he said, "Well, how do you know that?" And I started getting out my slide rule, explaining to him all the curves and what my progression and what I was going to do. And at this meet, I'm going to run this time. And the next meet, I'm going to drop 0.3 of a second. I'm going to run that time. And that's exactly what happened. But Dr. Gloucester wrote a check that day for $3,000 for myself and Coach Jackson. And that's the reason that we were able to go forward. So I'm indebted to the fact that Dr. Gloucester, and he's buried just on the other side of that building. I look over there every time I come into campus, that he was the catalyst for making this happen. And then Dr. Thomas comes in, and we talked, I think it was 2017, when he first came to the campus. I had a meeting with several other alumni over at the house, Davidson House, and we talked about plans and the track, and I told him the story about Dr. Gloucester because he had never heard it. And so he told me then, he said, "I'm going to redo the stadium at some point in time. That might be on the table later, but we're going to do the track. Give me 3 years. I just got here. Let me get my feet wet. We're going to get the track done." And so here we are today. Here we are today. I'm very, very pleased. It's my name that's on the track, and because I had the grit, and there was an article in the Los Angeles Times just a couple of days ago. They were asking me, they were talking about Sydney McLaughlin and what she's done in the 400 hurdles, and they had some comments by me. And what I said was that there was 3 things I knew when I went into a race. Number one, I was gonna die, physically die because of the exhaustion of the race. Number 2, I was gonna win. And number 3, I was going to feel worse than everyone else. And that's what makes a champion like a Sidney McLaughlin, and that's what made me. We didn't have any track at the time, so I jumped Georgia Tech's fence, Avondale track, Lakewood Stadium, walked down to Washington High when it was a concrete track. I've literally broken into every track in the Atlanta area and been kicked off of everyone too. But that's what it took to win, and we were serious about the sport, my colleagues and classmates and I. But I was dead serious about it. And the grit and my sacrifice was then, but the track represents what the students deserve now, like Dr. Thomas indicated. And so we look forward, and everywhere I go, Dr. Thomas, I talk to my friends in track and field, and I tell them, look, I know you know some guy that's going to want to come to Morehouse and specifically be on the track team, or just good students in general. But I'm doing active recruiting all the time, especially for track and field, because that's my love. So I've got a lot of friends here. Some of my high school buddies are here, very close friends are here, and I appreciate everyone being here. I want to point out, have a couple of Olympians here. Dwight Phillips, who won gold medal in the long jump. He's here. Christy Caslin, bronze medal in 2016 in the 100-meter hurdle. And we were already up on the hill. We're planning a track meet already. And Christy is going to help us with the fundraising. So we're gonna make this a working asset for the college and university. But I'm just so proud to be here. It's not about me, it's my name, because I started the legacy, but it's going to be about what the students are able to take in from this track, from fitness, wellness, track and field, cross country, outstanding football field. Football team should really do great. It's just an outstanding platform for them to work from. So I'm just glad that I'm able to be here on this day, because it's been many, many years. And really thank everyone, including Willie Lanier, who's sitting here at the end, who was at and his Honey Bear Foundation. We met with them two summers ago, right when the first summer of COVID, we had our first meeting and everything. And he's been an avid supporter to make this happen. So those are the people who've made it happen. You know, I've just been a catalyst to have been able to do what I did years ago and keep it going. And we're going to make this an asset that delivers for Morehouse in many ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Edwin. And we are so proud of what you've done and thankful that you would let us honor you by putting your name on this track. Edwin gave a brief start to the introduction of the last person you will hear from. And as I said, when I went to Ms. Aaron and made sure that we at least had the $1 million gift that we needed to begin to put a spade in the ground, so we knew it was going to happen. And I said, you know, I prayed that we would find a way to fill the gap. And along came an individual who I grew up watching on television, because I'm from Kansas City. And that individual is Willie Lanier, who played for the Kansas City Chiefs. Willie is another great example of someone to whom the world has given much, and he has given much back. He's a philanthropist. He also leads the Honey Bear Foundation and his HBCU Field of Dreams program, which is essentially about partnering with historically black colleges and universities to help them create the kind of facilities that their student athletes deserve and need to be excellent. So the way that we closed in on this project was by creating a partnership with Willie Lanier and the Honey Bear Foundation and the Field of Dreams program. Mr. Lanier, would you grace us with a few words?
Good morning. Edwin, enjoyed your words and appreciate the skill that it takes to do what we did in our journey. Dr. Thomas, as I look at him now being president of this outstanding university in Atlanta, Georgia, where he spoke of $500 million that's set as what is expected to occur. I'll offer some comments that I grew up in Richmond, Virginia. Things were very segregated. High school called Maggie Walker, the first black bank president in the United States, only a half a mile from Virginia Union. So that was where I played high school football. And because of that, the first project that is in this program was Virginia Union. The athletic director of that school is named Joe Taylor. He was going to the Black College Hall of Fame activity down here in Atlanta, and he asked me if I could be supportive of having my name on that field if we could get this whole thing started. I shared with him that I was really interested in just having my name on something because we have to figure out a way to take the next step. And from Edwin's comments and all of us here, imagine what we would have done if we weren't able to close this gap of confidence, if we weren't able to take ourselves from where we were, where our families were, to take that leap. It's beyond comprehension. So Dr. Thomas, as he sits there, is from Kansas City, Missouri. He grew up down there, 31st and Prospect. And at 31st and Prospect, that was a Boys and Girls Club. And that Boys and Girls Club in 1972 had Willie Lanier as the fundraiser. So Willie Lanier ran a $100,000 capital campaign for the Boys and Girls Club of Kansas City, where he was a youngster, 10 to 11, 12 years of age. And he saw something, like people saw things in you, Edwin, and like people saw something in all of you who are here. Because what all of us have done is to achieve more than many around any of us would have thought possible. So the reality is that that continues. I don't know Billy Aaron, but I bring comment from a wonderful friend of theirs named Tom Moorhead. And I was on the phone with Joe Taylor and Tom Moorhead at Virginia Union. These fields cost $1 million. I don't have $1 million. I can help raise it, but it wasn't one where you just stand up and do whatever. So, because Tom Moorhead was on the phone at Virginia Union, Field Turf is the provider of turf for these fields. All of these fields, tracks, and fields across the United States, African Americans have created a tremendous amount of money, but they didn't know who was building the field, or who was building the court, who was building the track. All of that is economic reality. So you start having discussions. Who else is doing this? How big is this thing called Field Turf? Oh, they trade on the French Stock Exchange? Yeah. Oh, they're a $3 billion a year company. They are. Oh, their EBITDA is $250 million. So all of that becomes an understanding and quality of what we are doing. So as the same way that Dr. Thomas spoke about the challenge when someone says they will and they don't quite come through, the thing that happens, and I'll finish with, is that God puts it in your plan, gives you the confidence to make it happen. As I stand here 2 days ago, I have 2 sevens attached to me because my birthday was Sunday and I'm 77 years of age. So as I think back to Dr. Thomas, as I think back to the fact that I played their sport, I have no injuries from their sport. I had no surgeries from their sport. I never took a pain pill or cortisone shot or had a knee touched. I said to the coach and the general manager, you go do that. You do that with your children and your grandchildren. I don't do that. So what happens is that All of us have the ability to offer words and comment at many times that can keep it going. You put an oar in the water, you got to put the next one in. So I finish with that. God's blessings and grace to all of you that are here. Dr. Thomas, I've enjoyed just this look back because who knew? Well, God knew. And with that being said, there was a teammate of mine, Jim Lynch, who was my right linebacker. Bobby Bell was my left linebacker. Jim Lynch passed 3 weeks ago. I was visiting here at his home with his wife on that Sunday. He passed that Thursday. There were some issues, but not just being there because you thought something was close. But the reality was, 1967, he and I come to Kansas City. I'm a black kid from Baltimore. He's a white kid from Lima, Ohio, Notre Dame. He had all the accolades, didn't have diversity in his background, but we became like the Gale Sayers and the other gentlemen because we were roommates for 8 years. And all of that occurred, but as I share this with Dr. Thomas, my left back linebacker, Bobby Bell, lost his wife 3 weeks before that. So God allowed me to be in Kansas City to say hello to both of them, to share with them at this moment of their end. Thank you very much. I appreciate all that you all have done, and I appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Mr. Lanier. I just want to end this part of our program today by giving a special thanks and recognition to the coaches and the staff of our athletic department. Just as we've talked about for many years, our students had to play on what were not first-rate tracks and fields. Our coaches have had to coach them. So this is also, I hope, a great moment for you, our coaches, as you think about what we can do. And I want to underscore something that Edwin said, where he said, we're already up on the hill planning, how to use this asset to make a difference, not just for Morehouse, but for the world. And I think that's the North Star for Morehouse, is to use all of our assets to make a difference in the world. Finally, I want to thank the staff who worked hard to put this event together, and who've worked hard throughout this project in terms of overseeing it. We have these moments and, the president gets up and gets accolades, but in actuality, it's a team of people who really make things happen here at Morehouse College. So I want to make sure that we recognize them. They are too many to name, but they are here, and I want to thank them for their great work. And if you'd give them a round of applause. And with that, we end our program. And when's the first game on the field, Coach?
September the 3rd.
And September the 3rd, don't miss it. And A.D. Campbell, do you want to say anything here at the end?
Yes, I was going to bring up our coaches.
Oh,
Let
okay.
them say a few words.
Great.
Yes. Thank you.
At this time, I would just like for Coach Hill and Coach Freeman to have the opportunity to come up and say a few words about what this project means to both of them. And I know Coach Hill has talked with me in depth numerous times about his track, and so has Coach Freeman talked about the football field. And so I know that when this project was announced and we actually broke ground, they were both so excited, and we've talked about it since it started. And so I would love for them to have an opportunity to say a few words.
I would first like to give the glory to God. I cannot thank everyone for what they have done, but I can say I give you the praise because there are so many people that have given so much to Morehouse, not just today, but throughout times. And that is so wonderful to see what an institution can do for the world. The track is great, but the students that go through these institutions are even greater. So don't look at the victory as being won by the fastest. Let's look at these victories being won by the ones who stay and endure and make sure everything get done. So once again, thank you for all that you have done for Morehouse and the world. Thank you.
Greetings. Just want to say thank you again to all the special benefactors. Thank you to Curtis. Thank you to President Thomas for allowing me the opportunity to just be the coach here. I'm thrilled with the prospect of leading the Morehouse College Maroon Tigers. Last year was a transitional year for us. Transition. Whenever there's transition and shifting, you know, things become uncomfortable sometimes. You know, you got an automatic shift, it's smooth sailing. But if you drive a stick shift, then it's going to be some turbulence when you go from one gear to the next. I've never started the season off since I've been coaching football at 0-5. Never. But having to drive, as Edwin mentioned, leaving your home facility to go practice somewhere else, having to drive to Lakewood Stadium at 4 o'clock in the morning, Washington High School, Mays High School, Grady High School. That's what our scholar athletes did at 4 o'clock in the morning, and they did it for 12 weeks, 14 weeks last year if you count fall camp. Back to the transition piece. You can see what you're getting ready to get, but you had to pay for it. They had to pay for that, and it took some special folk, some special people to be able to endure what they were able to endure, knowing that they still were not going to get a chance to play on it. It was almost like the situation many years ago, thousands of years ago, where you had Moses and you also had Joshua. Moses knew that he would never get an opportunity to make it to the promised land, but he still had enough grace and still had enough God inside him to anoint Joshua and be genuinely happy for him, knowing that he would be the guy to go. So I said all that to say I'm happy for the young men that are still here, and I want you to know that it's been some blood, it's been some sweat, and some tears to get us to this point. Mr. Barker can profess many years ago I've spoken with him and at least 2 presidents about having a top flight, a top 25 football program. That's what we were able to accomplish. A first in school history playoff football program with no turning back, no signs of a drop-off. And I was asked, Coach, are you excited about next year? And my answer was grim. My answer was, when you have a beautiful bride, that's pressure when you have a beautiful bride. You have to take care of that bride. And if you don't take care of that bride, it costs some time and effort and energy to put into that bride. If you don't put into that bride, then at some point that bride is not going to be beautiful anymore. And I've heard many persons got up here and talk about the benefactors and the philanthropists, but I've also heard folk get up here and talk about what Coach Hill mentioned, which is the grace of God. It's been many nights where we have prayed and cried for this field and this track. And through the blessing of the good Lord, we were able to reap the benefits that Joshua reaped, all of us standing here today. And so we get a chance to see it. So thank you to Willie Lanier, thank you to Billy Aaron, thank you to you, President Thomas, who's made more practices and games and addressed our teams more than any president I've ever worked with. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you to you also, Edwin Moses. I don't know how I can forget that name, but thank you to you. As a small boy in my household, you know, we were so proud of what you were able to accomplish, and you've been right there as well. So thank you to all of you. Happy that our student athletes got a chance to enjoy it, and I just want to say thank you and end with that. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we would like for everyone that spoke at this event to come forward for the official ribbon cutting.